If you're playing, when you're done, if you are not drag out exhausted, I don't care who you are, you didn't try hard enough in my book. So you better be absolutely crawling off the field tired and just delirious at the end of the game. Otherwise, you didn't push yourself hard enough.
That test of will is known as rugby, one of America's fastest growing sports. Vermont is home to plenty of secret savages who can ruck, scrum, and scrap their way to national championships and hometown glory. These are stories of players who endure and cherish the hardships of a beautiful game. This is Elegant Violence, a rugby story.
Hey, my name is Cullen Seal. I'm 22 and I play rugby at UVM.
Cullen Seal never played rugby before he came to college.
So I played soccer in high school and I was midfield and I had to run a lot and I preferred to sprint a little bit rather than run for 90 minutes straight. So I decided to try another sport after my roommate suggested it.
In 2014, Cullen picked up rugby at the University of Vermont. Watch number 11. This is Cullen playing wing on the outside.
Whoa, right by. Here we go. He'll be happy now. Beautiful.
So it was the first real game where there was actual contact and I had to tackle people and run through hits, and I just kind of really enjoyed the physicality of it. I thought it was really raw, and I immediately liked it better than soccer.
There was something about the game that clicked with Cullen. The organization, the rules, the strategy. When at times he felt he lacked direction, rugby gave it to him.
What I liked about rugby was just how intense it was all the time. They demand you to have this certain grit attitude at all times to be able to keep moving,
If you ask players, they'll tell you rugby is organized chaos. After a kickoff, the chaos begins. There are 15 players per side, split into forwards and backs. Players can't throw the ball forward. They can only throw it laterally or behind them. To score, you have to place the ball in what's called the try zone. The try is rugby's name for a touchdown. It's worth 5 points. After a penalty, there's a scrum, where all the forwards lock into a pack to contest for the ball. The job of the backs is to score.
So the wing is on the outside, and on offense, he just needs to track the play and figure out it's all about timing when you're on the wing. You have to be there at the right time, at the right place, with enough speed. Because if you overshoot it, you're useless.
Being useless is something no rugby player wants to be. In fact, they want to play so bad, many of them play through their pain.
Don't feel sorry for yourself. You just gotta keep going forward, no matter how hard it gets. And it's definitely rugby in a nutshell.
That stoic attitude can get some players in trouble. Cullen says he played an entire season with a torn hamstring.
I knew that if I took a bunch of a leave, it would feel better. So I would wake up, pop 4 or 5, start to hurt again, pop some more. I was doing a lot of a leave a day, probably 20, 30 a leave, just every day, just to keep going. And eventually I had a prescription to an anti-inflammatory painkiller, and then I just kept doing a leave.
Some players may laugh at the use of medication, but it's a real part of rugby. Joey Bezel knows a thing about this because he was once a UVM player and is now a strength and conditioning coach for their team.
Yeah, so rugged candy, it's like just kind of a slang term that we threw around when I was playing. Every time you were done playing, you'd pop a few just so your body wasn't aching and horrible pain for a while afterwards, because you take a couple cuts and bruises and then you get a couple head knocks and you kind of want things to not hurt a little bit immediately. So yeah, it's just kind of a term of endearment for non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Come on. Finish it out, lock it up. Good, let's rack it. Hey, boy. I've had a number of injuries. I've had my shoulders blown out, and I've had a broken back. It's called spondylolisthesis. It's essentially a crack in the facet of the spine. My facet's been cracked and shifted in the L4, L5, so it essentially pinches down, and it kind of clamps the nerve down. So I would lose sensation of feeling and kind of collapse on my leg, which is not a very good thing to do in rugby, so I kind of had to back off a little bit. For me, it's been a tumultuous ride for rugby. I really always wanted to play, but then after my second shoulder surgery, I decided to hang the cleats up and start coaching, which I did.
Joey's injuries are serious. He's got 19 metal pins in his shoulders, all because of rugby. So in 2014, he opened a gym in Shelburne where he could heal himself, but also help players. No doubt the game causes damage to the body, but physical conditioning can prevent injuries and help players recover from them. Part of Joey's job is to evaluate how players move so they don't get pummeled.
I'm not treating the symptom, I want to treat the root cause. So if I can see how they're moving, so when I'm out there on the rugby field and we're coaching at 6 in the morning and we can see how they're moving through things. So I see how Chris is moving, I see how Cullen's moving, and in doing that, aside from being in here, you're able to determine what movement patterns are kind of faulty.
Joe has provided a facility for us to get really good strength conditioning, and with a bunch of people who really are knowledgeable about what they're doing and can help you with your form and your mobility, which is the foundation of being able to lift the correct way.
As much as this training is designed to prevent injuries or heal from them, in rugby culture, the expectation remains: push hard, even when it hurts.
Saying mental fortitude is so underrated, particularly nowadays. I mean, everybody's so soft, and if you can come in here and push yourself physically, that has so much more to do with your mental capacity and your physical capacity. It really does.
Not all pain for rugby players is physical. For some, it is a mental battle. Here, at a match against a Boston club in Massachusetts, Courtney Vandermeulen is fighting for minutes. Look at number 14. This is Courtney protecting the ball. Courtney is both a wing and flanker for Burlington Women's Rugby Club. For Courtney, the way to be faster is to weigh less. So, she's currently in the middle of what's called a cut, a drop in her daily calories.
The hardest part about this cut for me is the hunger. No matter what time of day it is, I'm hungry and I'm thinking about food. It can be when I'm making my food for my next meal or prepping a meal for later on in the day. I'm thinking about it. I'm just so hungry. Even when I'm eating my food, I'm thinking about the next meal instead of focusing on what I'm currently eating. Every day and every meal, I track the macros of what I eat. So the macros being the fats, the carbs, and the proteins.
To some, a regimen like this may sound extreme, but for some players in rugby, the reason for a cut is a leaner body moves faster.
First is, if you don't have gas to last the full duration of the match, right? Say you're only kind of labeled as a 30 or 40-minute player. You don't have much gas. If you have less mass to carry, you got a lot more juice in the tank in terms of the volume of oxygen you can maintain and hold.
I guess it's affected my endurance and my ability to go longer and not get as exhausted, because I guess being on this cut and not consuming as many calories when I'm constantly working out, I don't have enough energy to make it through.
For Courtney, there's a tough balance between losing weight for speed and getting fuel for energy. Rest and recovery is another hurdle for rugby players trying to get to the next level. Courtney works 3 jobs and has an erratic sleep schedule.
Come the weekend, Fridays and Saturdays, I'm working 10 p.m. till maybe 3, 4, 5 in the morning, meaning I'm not going to bed until the early hours of the morning.
Sleep is hugely underrated. There's a massive benefit to getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night minimum, and the performance of your athletes just skyrockets when they get that.
I mean, I do the cut because I want to better myself. I fell in love with rugby 2 years ago, and I'm not okay with just settling for myself, so I like to push myself to make myself better at the sport that I love.
The sport they love is filled with contradictions. Rugby is a game that requires athletes to run, sprint, tackle, wrestle, even fight for inches of territory. It can physically beat you and emotionally wear you down. But for these players, it meant something powerful. The opportunity to go to a national championship, becoming a mentor to future players, and the challenge of giving everything you've got.